Okay, hello everybody. I'll do a quick update. It's Saturday, and I just decided I'll do it right now. And I'll show you this is the war. That's all the little, I'm uploading to another site. Now that might be beneficial, not just one video. I'll be in the second, and it'll have to do with like the news updates, which I slowed down on because they have value, hopefully, for the day or the few days that you would see them right after I make them. Let me put this on. But that's, I'm uploading the total teaching videos, the ones I tried to repost, are about 900. And so that is uploading 888 files. That takes 5 days. That's going, 5 to 7 days. That's going to Dropbox. Now you might think, but John, you have so many. That's what we'll talk about. The other day I made a comment on, I'll do a little news. I made a comment on Facebook, but I'm not on Facebook. It's just when I was sharing a video of the multiple videos you see me share, I mentioned how some of the sites you see like that on BitChute. That's the thing you see when you go to my BitChute site. And then Flickr, which has been having problems. Tech Talk, SmugMug, another tech company, bought the very famous Flickr, which was known for people to upload photos. They were like some of the originals. Flickr. Nowadays you have all types of photo bucket and all types of things, but also you could upload videos to Flickr. So now these are things that in technology, in the earlier days you only had a few options, and of course today you have so many. But I mentioned how one video, I think it was called Line of Judah, and I didn't even have a chance to share that video, meaning I uploaded it to Flickr, later was going to share it, but they had, because of the transition that I mentioned, they're having a lot of problems, and people are getting frustrated. So I have so many others I just go to, but some people, if they're dependent on one site, it's very frustrating. I read some of the comments, like I have all my videos and I can't access them. Now, one of the things, oh, and that one video, it had like 630 views, not even shared. Now, what is that a lot? Not really, but isn't that strange? And then BitChute, some of those videos like get 200 and something views. And those are not, I'm not cherry picking what I think is the best. I'm trying to just go to, I don't review any of them. I was just looking at all my old radio cassettes. I still have them in the back room. And I thought, oh, I should just put them. Here's some there back in the radio days. Okay, now this is going to be news. It's going to be tech. The revolution that we have been in, the technological thing. And also the going away of print newspapers. Now, I've been very hard on the Kohler Times these last few years. And I'm still, I bought their paper once, maybe in the last few weeks. And maybe a month or so before. I won't buy it because I can't support it. You say, John, why can't you support maybe a liberal newspaper like the Kohler Times? It's not that they're liberal. You see, some of the discussions that have gone on in our country, I take a real liberal view on. When we had the famous Muslim Democratic Congresswoman, who in the last few weeks has made it into the headlines, along with Ocasio-Cortez. These are the new young Democrats that were elected to Congress this last go-around, and they are really left-leaning. Okay, Beto O'Rourke out of Texas just announced his candidacy, another Democratic candidate. And so many of the younger people, whether they be Democrats or whatever many of the younger generation do hold to the more ultra-liberal views. A huge mistake at the Democrat Party is to have Miss Nancy Pelosi, Italian, I'm Italian, and Chuck Schumer, like these people, or Dianne Feinstein, who schooled those young children on environmental things. But some of the discussion, you see, hinged on comments that were indeed made that were considered anti-Semitic. The Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar made comments. She's Muslim, but she had a history of growing up. I forget now what country it was, but she suffered in her past and all. But some of the comments when she interviewed Elliot Abrams, who was Mr. Trump's envoy to Venezuela, which is still like on the verge of collapse over there, she questioned the West's support for the nation of Israel. Now, I can do a lot of teaching on this, and I won't because it's news. But she questioned whether or not people that are pro-Israel, meaning lobbyists and others, who our country does indeed work in a system that's not good. People can hire other people legally to represent them in Washington for their viewpoints. We can talk about the Boeing crashes for that new plane. Mr. Trump did something actually that most presidents would not do. He said, I'm going to ground them. Now, he should have done that. Mr. Obama and others would not have done that because Boeing has got a huge lobbying group as well. A great American aircraft producer. But the talk behind the scenes from the pilots was the new technological stuff that they got in those planes, this new Boeing plane, is problematic. And then you had two crashes, and Boeing, and the normal way our country would work is the president himself would not come out and ground those airplanes. And Trump didn't do that for any other reason, but that he knew from the talk behind the scenes amongst other pilots who complained. And so he just came out. He tweeted first, and then he came out. Now, normally you don't have presidents that they usually go along types of lines. Now, the Ilhan Omar and the anti-Semitic comments that she made were indeed wrong. But then again, to question any lobbying group, meaning any people in Washington, D.C., who represent another country or a corporation or whoever, to simply question that is not considered, in my mind, anti-Semitic. Now, I just gave you the more liberal view, because some said any questioning of people who are lobbying for the state of Israel, nation of Israel, in Washington, to question it is anti-Semitic. No, it's not. To simply question it is not. To use terms like the representative did, it's all about the Benjamins and Jewish money. That's anti-Semitic. So what we have is an inability in this country. Now, I believe the media, our Kohler Times is going to go bankrupt like I prophesied. How do I know? A few weeks ago in Walmart, I noticed they had a little sign that said, the Kohler Times has raised its price to $2.50. And I'll just tell you, it's a very thin and small paper. They're not going to survive. And when I go online and look at all the media outlets, local and national, when I click Kohler Times online, of course you get 3 free views a month. And then they want you, the only way print paper will survive in the technological revolution is by getting online subscribers. And the Kohler Times, just frankly, in the market of our beautiful area, 350,000 people or so, it's not, they will not survive and by getting online subscribers. And I probably go online more than most because I check the news every day. And they have the thing, join now for 3 months for like maybe $1 or 99% off of the online subscription. Well, why would anybody do that? They need to get, I used to subscribe to the Kohler Times. They even sent me a envelope saying, like, we want you back. They're going to go defunct. I'm just telling you, because they raised the price to $2.50. And why cannot the print news compete? Our other local media outlets are KIII TV, KRIS TV, and KZTV, who are also affiliated, KRS, KZTV. They're online, about just as good as anything you'd see from the Caller Times online. But when they're online, they're also coming to you from the traditional TV format. They don't need, in the same way that a print paper needs online subscribers to survive. But yet, I go to them, and when my 3 free views are up, I just go to the other local things and get it for free. Now, the tech thing that's gone on this week, the big news story, there's been a few, tragically, again, in the city of Christchurch, New Zealand. I did a video, I think it's still titled Christchurch. It was about an earthquake that hit Christchurch, New Zealand many years ago. And I gave some scriptures and how it would apply. We had a massacre of 49 Muslim people, children and all, in a mosque by someone who indeed would be, if you would refer to, a right-wing radical terrorist, because he killed these Muslim people in mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand. Tragic. And I think everybody on every side of the aisle would rightfully condemn that. But then, I went back and forth the last few days going to make a video, mad, because I battle with Facebook, YouTube, and Google. Personal battles, in the sense that they've blocked many of my posts. The Christian posts that are purely Christian, when I share them from all of my other websites, and I go to share them on Facebook, it says these posts violate our community guidelines and they are hate speech. They tagged me. From many of my other websites, they tagged me with that. And it's not that. All of my posts, granted you might find a few videos where you see me mad and curse, they're still on. You know, I don't take them down. So big tech, and then on YouTube, I had the one strike, and then they were going to, but then they messed with the views. They lowered the views, because I've had people watch them. Say, John, I watch a certain one many times, and I believe tell them the truth, because look, the one video on whatever I said, Flickr, 630 views, and I didn't even share it yet. So somehow people found that one link before I even shared it. So I have a problem with the whole thing going on with Google, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, because after the tragic shooting in Christchurch, New Zealand, killing massacre, the videos, as far as we know, it was videos from the shooting, they went online and they went viral. They were the killer live streamed the massacre, as far as we know, unless it was a fake thing, but seems like he went, had his video camera on like you see me, and live streamed that killing. This is not the first time that has happened with Facebook. How do we prevent that? You can't have live stream. Now, why would they not agree with what I just said? Because they would lose money. I'm not live stream, but as soon as I make this, it goes up, just like it was live stream. And I never edit these. You could see all that. But granted, maybe there's more of an attraction. If you say I'm going to be live streaming tonight at a certain time, I understand the concept. The big tech companies we have a great opportunity as citizen journalists, as people who are educated. The mainstream news, the KRAS, about a year ago, they used to run a little commercial that said, you can trust us, not these bloggers. I have covered more in-depth history about Russia, about U.S. relations, about how the thing that we're caught up in is dangerous, and it's just clickbait. And that all comes from the KRAS groups or the mainstream media. They are unable to give you a serious analysis of why this frenzy in the country for 2 years and ongoing. When Mr. Trump tweeted something the other day, yesterday or whatever, he said, this investigation on the Russia collusion should have never begun. Look, there's a legal reason he tweeted that, meaning legally, this is not right wing or left wing. Legally, you cannot begin an investigation in our investigative agencies on an American citizen like a man by the name of Carter Page. They got a warrant on him to spy on him. And then to begin an investigation on a president who is now got elected, you can never do that on hearsay evidence. That's the law. That's the law. Meaning you could not hand something over. I was a supporter of Mr. McCain, who sadly passed away. He was in the news again this week because we knew John McCain and one of his associates handed the so-called Russian dossier over to Oldys, and the other guy looks like he leaked it to BuzzFeed and media outlets. The Russian dossier, and I want to show you the importance of why the media is just unreliable. The Russian dossier was basically opposition research that Hillary Clinton and the DNC, Democratic Party, obtained by using a former British spy by the name of Christopher Steele. And he was working for the political party. And he had these contacts indeed with Russia to get dirt on Mr. Trump. Now, this is how politics works. We understand that. But you would never actually take something like that, meaning a document put together by the opposition party who lost the election, and then begin obtaining warrants on U.S. citizens, which Mueller and all these insiders did, all the people you've heard about in their names this last few years. That was wrong that they did that. Because it's really, and more broke this last few days, to simply say that it was illegal the way they started it. They started it based on that. And that's why Mr. Trump tweeted, it should never. Now, what's the damage that they did? There were various people like Paul Manafort and others who got, once the investigation began on an illegal basis, then they caught these other people up in the net. And this net's going to go on forever because they also hand over whatever they find. The special prosecutors who's supposedly going to wrap it up in a day or two, and the Mueller report will be out. Anything that they find has nothing to do with Russia, nothing to do with Trump. Anything we find on any people, whether it's Mr. Trump's family, because they now subpoenaed records of Donald Trump, his kids, and then the media had the goal on a front page thing online, CBS, NBC, one of the big ones, top story, will Ivanka be next? Can you imagine that? Can we look just at all the business dealings of Ivanka throughout her whole life? And if we can look at those things, because the Democrats, Adam Schiff and others, are now going to continue the thing, and if we catch you in anything, then you might go to prison. Family of Trump and so forth. That's why. And what is the media's fault in this? First, there are serious things. Putin in Russia just passed something. I'm on a Russian site now, VK. Greetings to all my friends in Russia and Ukraine. And I talked about those issues. Russia passed a law, the parliament recently, that real criticism against the state, against Russia, is going to be, they're going to crack down on that to the point where it's just gossip. Just, okay, now I don't agree with it. We believe in freedom of speech. But you have the whole country revved up where the Red Scare has made it totally unable for a quick 5-minute discussion of why that's a real problem, that we should try to have a good relationship with whether it's Putin or the next person. Because over the long term, NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, formed after World War II, was supposed to be a defensive alliance. And if I just gave you the history of the last 20 years, it's now an offensive military, primarily run by the United States of America and our allies. And we amazingly allowed Turkey to be in that coalition. And so when you're a member of NATO, we basically, if people look to us now, look, if somebody attacks us, President of the U.S., we're a member of NATO, and I would never want a child to die for Erdogan, or however you say his name. He himself is an oppressive Turkish president, oppressing the rights of people, but yet because they're in NATO, and they even downed a Russian plane in the Syrian conflict these last few years, and they did it wrong. And when they did, the first thing that Erdogan did is jump to the U.S. Oh, if Russia attacks us, don't forget. So, in essence, if Erdogan and certain Islamic, they have radicals in their country as well, backed by various factions. Can you imagine our boys and girls dying because a Muslim extremist, maybe out of Turkey, killed a Russian Christian soldier? The Russian Orthodox Church has a tremendous history. I've taught it over the years. So in essence, we are now bound by the North Atlantic NATO that if a Muslim extremist beheads a Christian Russian soldier, well, those Turkish, what a disgrace that we're this way. And we're unable to have an honest conversation about it. Because any movement by this U.S. president deemed to be what Putin wants, then you have talking heads in the media that say he's a Manchurian candidate, he's working. That's your media. The honest view would simply be, we developed over these many years now, NATO is indeed a threat to other countries. And when you had the breakup of the former Soviet Union, you remember Mikhail Gorbachev and others, Perestroika, Glasnost, and then when these other satellite, if you will, states of the former Soviet Union broke away, Georgia, and that's why Ukraine now is in a conflict, we basically promised Russia, look, we're never going to put troops and certain type of weapons right on your border, Russia, because we understand that that would be a threat. We went against that promise. The West and the U.S. went against that promise, and we lied to them. It wasn't in writing, but it was made known to them as they reorganized after the collapse of the Soviet Union. And so now we're moving ahead. It started, Obama is just as guilty, and if Mr. Trump does it. Now, if Mr. Trump doesn't do it, meaning put these types of weapons that Russia is rightfully opposed, but your media would say, Trump did something Russia wanted. Who cares? If it's right and just, any country, if Russia put, look, they flew those 2 nuclear-capable jets into Venezuela a few weeks ago, bombers. But anybody that would say that Putin's concerns about NATO's buildup and the U.S. backing of putting weapons right in these former USSR countries, if anyone says Putin's a madman to fear that because we have no bad intentions, are you kidding me? NATO is indeed no longer just a defensive thing. Look at the history and look at the mess. And your news cannot even speak. They don't even know. If I can be so bold, Miss, whatever your name is, Stephanie Jimenez from KRS, you probably don't even know to find it on the globe, dear. And you had that ad, bloggers don't know what they're talking about. Now, the media cracked down on the big 3 tech, Google, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, because this video of the massacre, live streamed on Facebook, then they were unable to take it down because copycat videos were, when I Googled it a little while ago, sure enough it shows, I didn't look for the video, I was going to check the story before I spoke, and it said Google Christchurch, and the first thing that comes up is video, so you could still get the video. I didn't watch it. So now the media, mainstream media, who is being challenged by social media, by bloggers, by people who upload 880 files, and, it takes 5 days because they can't stop us. How could the social media companies trust us? They look at the background. They look at what have you been posting, what have you been doing. And for the most part, I might have a few videos where you saw me mad, but look, we've never advocated violence. So the only way they can do it, but when you have live streaming, it's impossible. They're going to have to stop that. You cannot have live streaming. This video will upload and you will view it as soon as it's uploaded. It's not live stream, but even if there were bad things on it, it would still go up on the platforms. But what the mainstream media, who is collapsing, I gave you that example of Color Times, they're now criticizing, rightfully in this way, that once again Facebook, and they have images of violence. I think it was the Washington Post had a story, I Googled it a little while ago. How can we permit social media to post graphic images of violence? And I thought, when we saw the Iraq War, CNN, Wolf Blitzer, left media, right media, corporate money media, they gloried in those bombs. Just because they didn't show you the people that were being killed, was that not graphic? You saw the real, they were all set up, our whole media, and that war was an unjust war because they didn't have weapons of mass destruction. And a lot of people died. And it was an unjust war. The blood of those people is on George Bush's hands. Because many innocent people died. And it was a lie. But our media glorified in that violence. So they do not have the right to tell anybody. I think there is indeed a problem, especially in this one example I gave you, that people could live stream things. And maybe that's giving them more of an incentive. The people that commit suicide live streaming, maybe they're thinking, oh wow, this is going to get more sympathy and more attention. So it's a problem. I think you can't have live streaming. I think you're going to have to, people are going to have to get permission to do it. Like you got to say, I make the application. Can I live stream on your format or whatever it is? So this is just that one update I wanted to do. As an example, you're going to see this video. Now, I'll put it on YouTube, upload it to Facebook. But if I had to, I can put it on, you see all those, how many sites do we have? Video, many video sites. That's all those links you see. And many websites. And yes, people have hacked my stuff. And I've had it where certain times, and look, sometimes they might think, oh, he's got so many. It's not worth doing it for those that do that stuff and engage in that stuff. So this update will simply be, our mainstream media is indeed fake news. Because even the little bit that I explained to you, a little of the history, why any Russian president would deem certain actions by the Western world a threat, your media doesn't tell you that. And they're paid media. Boeing would have never, most presidents wouldn't have had the honesty to ground those Supermax jets, whatever the name is, from Boeing, because they got lobbyists. There's a lot of money involved in these things. And your media is corporate, meaning they are getting paid, and they're a corporation. And their bottom line is the bottom line. Not that they willfully go out daily to lie. They too feel like they're caught up in clickbait. I'm sure the news today is consumed with things that somebody, I saw it when it happened. One of the mob guys in New York was whacked the other day. So then there was some talk about, we had one come here. I could have went and listened to him, but I didn't. Our district attorney, Mark Gonzalez, did. They missaid it in the media. They said a former mob boss. He wasn't a mob boss. I forget now, Michael Francine, but he was in the mob. and he made a lot of money. He knew how to make a lot of money when he was in the mafia. But he converted, gave his life to the Lord. And now he goes around and speaks, and he was here. And you know, I went to the Mueller's connections in the past to a lot of corruption that man was involved in the Whitey Bulger scandal, where it was a corrupt FBI headed up by Mr. Mueller that basically permitted murders to take place under their watch, and they knew about those things. And that's gone down in the annals of history as one of the most corrupt FBI things that ever went on. And Mr. Bob Mueller was in charge of that. And our media, Color Times, the thing that they read an opinion piece this last year, said, who is one of the most righteous men in the country? Some minister, some whoever, somebody laying their life on the line, helping the poor. Who is one of the most righteous? They picked Bob Mueller with the corrupt history that man had in the anthrax case and all these other things. So what does that tell you? They're not about giving you anything that's true, ever. They're about an agenda. That's why, thankfully, they're going defunct. I believe the Color Times is going to be out of business, within this year. Because, look, the New York Times even admitted it. One of their top execs said, we're going to eventually not be print. I almost bought the New York Times a few weeks ago. It's the same price as the Color Times. I think it's $2.50. Look, the New York Times is a good paper. And when you buy it, I used to buy it on the weekends going to the fire department. And it, I wouldn't read it all. It doesn't take you all weekend to read it, but there was so much. So, look, how are they going to compete in this market, the Color Times? My advice to the local community is, look, if you want, I buy the San Antonio paper. They do a fine job. They don't cover it as well, as much as Corpus Christi will, the Color Times. But I think you should boycott it. I firmly believe that the irresponsibility of this local media to not even explain some of the simple things I explained to you today. And their money is bottom line to them. So thankfully they're going to be going defunct. And the New York Times admitted pretty much that. Okay, so this is just a little talk. I'm sure there's some things I missed. I wanted to just give some context. I don't support dictators. Mr. Putin, I don't support him. I don't support the things that have happened to the people that were political on the other side of the aisle who wound up killed and murdered and various things. I don't support those things. But I also don't support an irresponsible media that created an environment in this country over an investigation that indeed you never would start an investigation on a then sitting president and obtain warrants based on opposition research from the opposing party. Look, that is a disgrace what they did in this country. Those people that were involved in that. Most of you know these names of these people. So and then these Manafort guys and others who were caught up and they're going to prison and spending, don't underestimate them. Many media personalities are happy. Manafort didn't get enough time. You should have given an honest analysis like I did. Don't buy that paper. It's a bad paper. Corpus Christi Color Times. Okay? We just end this tomorrow. I'm going to do the teaching video. And tonight you're going to see more videos, all right? Just pray a blessing on everybody. Engage yourself. Use some of these examples I gave, little things you see. I understand we're not, big time. I understand that. But if citizens, the citizen media, if you're informed, you can do a much better job than the corporate media. And they're under challenge. The criticisms of social media, it's not all that they're just mad. They show violence. I just gave you the example. People who goes, back in the old days, I got to be home at a certain time, 5:30 world news, 6 o'clock local. That's gone. That's gone by the wayside. People don't do that anymore. Okay? People are now functioning in these ways through their mobile phones, accessing on demand. Okay? All right. That's it. I'll end it, and I'll talk to you guys, God willing, tomorrow.